You know, we've been reporting on how the work is still going on for the residual fuel. They're taking that out of the Red Hill tanks. And this is one of the last steps before the transition of command takes place. But what does this mean for our community? We're joined this morning by Commander Nico Melendez of Joint Task Force Red Hill and Scott Malcolm from the Navy Closure Task Force. Good morning to the two of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad you could be here today. Let's start off with the the last part, because we're supposed to end this residual fuel removal in March, I believe. Is that still on schedule, and are we sure that we've been able to do this without spilling anything more above that aquifer?
Yes, we are on schedule. We announced back in December that we had removed 104.6 million gallons through gravity defueling. And earlier last month, we started the removal of the residual fuel. So there's about 64,000 gallons of residual fuel. Joint Task Force is responsible for 60,000 of that. Today, we're going to update our dashboard, and we're going to be more than a third of the way complete. And then at the end of March, when our mission is complete, we'll turn over to the Navy Closure Task Force.
Just out of curiosity, is this part more difficult? I know it's a smaller amount of fuel.
Yeah, it's a slower process. We did 104.6 million gallons in 2 months. We're doing 60,000 gallons in about the same amount of time. We're opening low point drains. We're using the vent valves to get the fuel. So it's a very slow but methodical and deliberate process.
All right, so transitioning to the Closure Task Force, I wanted to ask you about, has there been any progress on what they're going to do? Because I can't imagine that you can completely remove those fuel tanks themselves from where they're sitting.
No, we have a very deliberate process that we're going to do to execute the permanent closure of the Red Hill facility, and that involves first removing the sludge from the bottom of the tanks, then cleaning the tanks, then we'll go in and remove the pipelines.
Well, the tanks that will remain there.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, for now. Our operating principle for now is to close the facility in place. There are 3 reports that have looked into potential reuse, non-fuel beneficial reuse later. Those reports are being assembled and given to Congress, and then they may drive a different option in the future, but for right now, close it in place.
All right, our reporter, Mahailani Richardson, has been covering this extensively, and she says that there have been ongoing complaints from residents who are still getting sick. They still see sheens in their water. What are you doing to make sure that more people aren't getting sick and that there isn't residual jet fuel maybe in the plumbing system or the pipes themselves that are causing this sickness?
Well, the first thing I'll tell you is that the safety of the people on the Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam water distribution system is our top priority. The second thing is we hear them. We hear about the complaints. We understand that they're real. And just last week we brought a team of experts from Navy Marine Corps Public Health Command, Defense Health Agency. We've got technicians and scientists all gathered in a room trying to determine the root cause so that we can go deeper. I will say that while we're doing this, the water continues to meet all state and federal safe water health drinking standards. But regardless, like I said, we brought in the team. We've got some leadership from Washington, D.C. coming in to see what other kind of resources we can bring to the problem. We take them seriously, and we're working the problem.
It just seems like it's been a really long time since the fuel spill in 2021, and that these families are still getting sick. What do you say to those families who are dealing with these ongoing health issues, and why the plumbing system, if that's the cause, hasn't been cleaned up?
Well, we've done in addition to this group of experts that's coming in to try to determine the root cause analysis, we've done a premise plumbing assessment where we took 5 homes and did detailed analysis of the plumbing on the premises. We're working with regulators through that to understand what that means, and we'll be briefing the public once that we and the regulators that we work with, the Department of Health and the Environmental Protection Agency, once we all agree what those findings mean, we'll be briefing it to the public and letting them know how we can help in the future.
Were those the homes where that JP5 was found in their water?
There were 6 folks that had reported in October, and we were able to do the testing on 5 of those.
Okay, one last question, because we understand that there's a class action lawsuit that will be coming out today. And there are more than 2,200 plaintiffs, which is 10 times the number that are currently on file. Just wanted to see if you had any comments for what's going to be happening, how the U.S. is going to be addressing this situation with so many more people coming forward.
So that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. I'm not a lawyer, public affairs officer, and But I will say that we hear those, we hear the concerns of the people that are on our water distribution system, and we're taking a lot of different new and novel measures to see if we can get after those problems.
And while we can't comment on pending litigation, of course, everything that we're doing at the Joint Task Force, everything that we're doing to provide consistency for security and safety, not only for the community but of the aquifer, we're going to have answers to those questions for the community. We have the open house on Wednesday night from 4 to 7 at Keahi Lagoon Memorial Park. We're going to have everybody, all the leadership will be there, one-on-one opportunity for members of the community to have conversations and really address their concerns.
And just for clarification, with these new complaints, are you sure there hasn't been a new type of spill of any kind at Red Hill?
We have had no spills at all, absolutely not. The aquifer is protected. We have tools in place to protect the aquifer. We have had no issues with our removal of fuel through the gravity process and no issues whatsoever with the removal of residual fuel.
All right, we're going to thank you two gentlemen for coming on to talk about this today. All right, we'll be right back.